Hey, what's happening, guys? It's Dean from Electronisounds. Stick around. Today I'm going to show you a piece of warehouse-style acid techno that I've put together using an iPad and the power of random.
Electronisounds audio. You know you need to watch that YouTube channel.
This example is using the technique that I showed in my last video, guys. And here today I'm using the Bram Bos XOX sequencer and the Bram Bos baseline sequencer to sequence this Electribe EMX-1 and this Zoxbox Roland 303 emulation. Stick around after the jam and I'm going to show you guys exactly how this is put together. Thanks for watching, guys. Be sure and subscribe if you like this kind of content. On this channel, I talk about live jams, randomization, iPads, hardware gear, making tracks, making live jams, you name it, sound design. Be sure and subscribe, guys. Here's how we're actually set up today, guys. I've got the XOX sequencer controlling the drum sounds inside of this Electribe EMX-1, and I've got the bassline sequencer controlling the acid lines in this 303 Emulation Zox box. And what I've done is I've programmed 8 different drum patterns into the drum sequencer, and I've programmed, I think, 6 different patterns into the bassline sequencer here. And I've told the drums that every 8 bars, it should switch to a new drum pattern. Plenty of these drum patterns are using the mutate function of the XOX sequencer as well to help create some, randomness in the movement of those patterns. So every 8 bars, it's going to switch to a new drum pattern. Every 16 bars, it's going to switch to a new acid line, and it's going to randomly pick between the drum parts and the acid lines, and it's just going to mix and match those. I'm over here on the top trying to kind of work the ebb and flow using the controls on the 303 emulation, tweaking the cutoff and the resonance and the envelope modulation. We've got the Zox box running through a Proco Rat distortion pedal, which I guess is a pretty common distortion pedal to run your 303 or your 303 emulations through. I've got the audio from this running into the audio input on this Electribe, and that way I can use some of the effects inside of this Electribe. I've got it running through, I believe, the modulation delay, so that I can get a little bit of, delay on the 303 sound. And basically, a jam like this is just going to keep going and keep spitting out random patterns, and over the top of it, you can just sort of work on other things, per se. One of the things that I've done to sort of keep the coherence together is I've rendered out an 8-bar bass line, which just plays a bass note that does not change through the whole thing, and that just plays as an audio loop in OM. And I've actually got a video on how to create the audio loops and use them inside of OM. I'll put a link up here in the corner to that video as well, so that you guys can get all this information. Here I've got a loop that basically is a 64-bar loop, okay? And on the downbeat, it's going to play an impact down filter crash cymbal. Right, so like set off the downbeat, and then 8 bars later, it's going to play a little crash cymbal to help, accent the changes that are happening, from the Zox box sequencers changing patterns. And then there'll be like a little snare fill that comes in on right as we're about to hit the 16-bar mark. And then when we hit, the downbeat of bar 17, we're going to get another impact, and basically this repeats every 64 bars, and it just gives me some impacts, some crash cymbals, and some snare drum buildups that you hear in the jam, that just sort of play continuously over the top, like that bass line there. That way, there's coherence, per se, in the jam. Even though things are changing randomly, some things are staying the same and helping me build that sort of ebb and flow momentum. Lastly, I took the kick drum out of an individual output on the EMX-1, and I ran that into the Electron Analog Heat MK2 to get just a tiny little bit of like drive and grit and saturation on the kick drum over what was there already, because I really wanted to create like the biggest, most aggressive kick drum that I could here. And so sometimes I can use the filter in the MK2, in the Analog Heat MK2, and I can sort of filter that down to get just a little bit more variety in the sections as it's playing back as well. I hope you guys have found this useful, and until next time, thanks for watching, guys.